Welcome to A Few Minutes with Peter Grandich. I'm your host, Al O'Grady, and for the next few minutes, we'll be talking to Peter, getting his insights on the markets, commodities, business, politics, sports, and life in general. Now, Peter Grandich is the editor of the Grandich Letter, which was first published back in 1984. He has been a market strategist, a portfolio manager of 4 hedge funds, and also a mutual fund that bared his name, and is widely known for his accurate forecasts and no-hedge market perspective. He appears regularly on television and radio and is widely quoted in leading financial publications. He's also the co-founder and managing member of Trinity Financial Sports and Entertainment Management Company, an insurance and estate planning firm specializing in servicing professional athletes and entertainers. Peter, as always, welcome back to the program.
Good to be back, Al.
Okay. We had a few-week layoff. You were down enjoying yourself in the sunny South. I hope you had a good time, and now it's time to get back in the saddle. As I said, Peter, it's been a few weeks since our last discussion. I think it's best that we just run down the markets that you follow, starting with the U.S. stock market.
Well, I issued a yellow alert about a week or so ago to my readers on the belief that we were getting to the point between now and either as late as the new year or when unfortunately a very bad military conflict takes place in the Middle East, that would be the time frame that this peak that I've expected to come in what I continue to believe is a fantastic bear market rally, but a rally within a secular bear market that began in the fall of 2007. So being I don't know and never know when the exact date and time it shall be, I wanted to suggest people while the market could actually still rise some more, it would be strictly, in my opinion, a time to lighten up non-resource related equities, or what I would like to call general equities in general. So that's where I stand at this moment since we last spoke. Okay,
you had mentioned the Middle East, and obviously when there's turmoil, the two go hand in hand in terms of the financial markets. Let's talk about the geopolitical situation first of all. I know you've been talking about a major military conflict, and you just alluded to that just a moment ago. Is there any way to avoid this military conflict in your view?
I don't think so. I like to be a believer. And I like to say, even as the Obama administration is saying that they think what they're doing now can prevent a military conflict. But, you know, I have to digress, and maybe people don't think this way, and I'm on the opposite side of them. But when I think about Israel, and I know historic, even without taking any religious aspects, you know, this is a country and a group of people who have felt for thousands of years they've been persecuted, found really just a little speck of land, especially when you look at it compared to its neighbors. And, you know, maybe not your and our lifetime, but in our parents' lifetime and our grandparents saw, you know, one of the, history's most worst period of times where millions of Jewish people were literally killed. And so to them, and I understand and appreciate it and support them, they don't want to be victimized again to any way, shape, or form in that regard. And then on the other side, you have a country led by a person now who's openly called for Israel's annihilation and is clearly developing a weapon that can harm them. So I don't see the country allowing that to get to the point where it can happen and would take what they would view as preventive measures, whether or not the world opinion is for them or against them. And, I think that period of action is becoming very acute and short-term oriented, that, we could literally wake up one day, but certainly in the next several weeks or few months, and that is what's going to transpire. So the answer to your question is, I don't see how to avoid it, and that's not taken into any spiritual beliefs or some people believing that this is all part of what Christians at least call the end times or what have you. That's not, although I get a few emails from people thinking that's my method of thinking, I'm just looking at it from an historical, secular way, and I really don't see how we don't avoid a military conflict.
Okay, when you're talking about the Middle East and a military conflict, first of all, are you talking specifically about Iran, or are you talking about Syria, or are you talking about an even bigger picture?
Well, I think you're hitting on something that's important. Besides the enormity of the Iran threat itself, Israel is surrounded by countries, many of which host groups and or people who also would like to see Israel wiped off the map. And I would obviously, on any conflict, use that conflict as a reason to they themselves throw themselves into the military aspect of it. And, there are numerous groups in Lebanon and Syria which are poised, and all sorts of intelligent work has suggested, ready to attack Israel, whether or not they eventually have a war with Iran, and are probably waiting for that as a reason to implement. So that's why I think any conflict is not just some few days thing and the UN gets involved and there's a peacekeeping force. I think this is going to be quite ugly and quite extreme, and therefore I think it will be a changing point to a lot of things in the world, economically and others. And so being it looks like this is not something that's going to still be another year or two away, the timing of it, and along with what I think is valuations that I put on the general equity market, suggested that as much as it's been good to foresee this rally, to use any further strength, in my view anyway, and it's just one man's opinion, to lighten up in equities, not to get deeply more involved with them.
All right. One last follow-up question on this, and this may seem distasteful by some people, and it's certainly not my intent. However, should there be a military conflict, would this not bode well for American companies that produce guns, bombs, bullets, grenades, things like that, and could be an opportunity for investors? As I said, I can view that as being distasteful, but your comments are certainly noteworthy on that.
Well, it would be a narrow. There would obviously maybe be some defense companies that make these weapons that, if they're used to the extent that they have to be replenished, but they would be so overweighted by, first of all, I think, and that's one of the reasons we've seen prices rising, I think we would see a dramatic rise in oil prices. I just think the fragile state of many economies in the world, including the U.S., may be hit to the point where it would knock us back into recession, or a deeper recession, or a depression, if that conflict lasts for any length of time and energy prices stay up for a dramatic amount of time. So whatever little gain a few individual defense-oriented companies may have from it, it would be just overwhelmed by, I think, so many negative economic, social, and geopolitical factors. Okay,
you certainly touched on oil, so let's continue with that. Obviously, any sort of conflict would certainly cause oil to rise. You said quite often, certainly in the latter part of last year, 2011, that $100 oil would become the bottom of a trading range. A triple-digit price has certainly been in the news a lot. Is this really what you had expected all along?
Yeah, I believe so. What seemed to be top of a range would become its bottom, and we could still get back into 90 or something like that. But that $100 triple-digit oil was here to stay, in my opinion, and we're seeing that, and it's become a political issue in the U.S., although not directly between Republicans and Democrats, because Republicans are still in their own primary business, but I believe it will become a vocal point for the inevitable Romney versus Obama campaign. And as much as I like to put blame on Obama for a lot of things, I don't think this is just his fault. This is a problem that's been acute for decades, and America has ignored, and the problems have come home to roost. And there are no quick fixes, and there may be some political moves that look like they're helping, but the argument has been for decades. I've said it all along, and it might even be detrimental to Israel, but if the United States would ever move away from fossil fuel and work on alternatives like natural gas and others, to the point where in the next generation a lot of fossil fuels wouldn't be needed, there wouldn't be as big a concern in the Middle East because outside of oil, there isn't much else we get from the Middle East. I mean, there's only so much sand we need, and we got our own sand.
Exactly.
So there is no quick fix. It'll take a generation to make the changes. So part of the problem of decades of avoiding the issues are coming home to roost, and they're not going to go away anytime soon. So that's why I have felt that we are going to get into triple-digit oil prices, and they're not going to be the fluke, but they're actually going to come to the bottom of a range. And one day, probably in the next 3 to 5 years, we'll start testing and getting above the old highs, regardless of what happens in the Middle East, because we just have not really done anything. I mean, you know, if we go about it again, even the pipeline from your country to ours. How stupid! How could we not? I mean, how could anyone not want to have that assurance from a true friend, from you know, just as like to say just across the border, versus are we going to continue to count on places in the Middle East or Venezuela to bring our energy needs? I mean, this is just some of the enormous economic, social, and political problems that America faces, and you know, play into my overall quite negative view once we get past this year.
Okay. Conflict in the Middle East creates oil to rise. I think we can all understand that. Would a conflict in the Middle East add more strength for gold to actually increase in price as well? Or are they related, or is it coincidental?
You know, the media likes to view gold strictly more as a if there's real bad times, you own it. If you don't, you shouldn't own it. I believe gold has risen for a lot of other reasons other than just that, and continue to believe. You know, I've said it enough times. The big sellers are gone. Central banks don't sell it like they used to. Producers don't sell it forward like they used to. And people in the world where real wealth is being created, like Asia and China, are not buying stocks and bonds with their wealth, but they're buying hard assets like gold. And I see that continuing. Does a military potentially help it for a day or a week? Yes. But actually, it could become counterproductive if such a conflict really shuts everything down, because if things got so bad and it looked like economies around the world, including those where it's growing, are going to decline because of a terrible conflict in $200 or $250 oil, then gold's going to go down because it's going to be sold by people that own it, because they're going to need to meet the needs of the liquidity problems that they're having in other markets. So it's not necessarily a good thing, though, if you're a gold person, to hope bombs are going to fly in the Middle East.
Okay, now furthermore, as far as gold is concerned, Peter, you and I agreed when we started these interviews that I would certainly point out your miscues as well as your successes, and you certainly had far more successes, especially with gold. But I'm starting to wonder if your aggressive bullishness towards gold could be coming back to haunt you. What do you think?
Well, I hope it's Casper the Friendly Ghost if it is coming back to haunt me. But, no, I don't see any haunting at all. I don't see, you know, it's terrible that, you know, and I think of a small group who, you know, there have been people who have been saying buy gold for 30 years, so I don't look at them as the group that I view that's bullish on gold, because they're the same as the group that's been saying buy stocks for 30 years, a don't want to be happy crowd. But there's been a select small group of people who have demonstrated to be on both sides, have been bearish at times and so forth, like I have on gold, and have also enjoyed the bulk, if not all, of this rise for almost a decade. And they always, including myself, seem to have to be put on the spot and answer why gold is not trading at its, you know, a high. You know, every time it's just somewhat off of its whatever high it's been in the last 10 years, they have to give an explanation for it, when all the people who constantly been wrong and all the way up never have to address all the times they've been wrong, and then why, you know, they were just wrong last time, like in December. I mean, look in December. In December, the market had broken. It was trading in the low 1500s. You know, there was a certain jerk out there, you know, that was, you know, even tried to finally put up some, if he put up $1 worth of his own money with his predictions, and everybody was, you know, scoffing and saying this was the end, and gold took off and rallied another 200. Now it's well over $100 or almost $150 higher than it was at that low point in December. And because we had a flash crash a week ago and At best, it was an horrific trader who didn't know how to sell 1 million ounces worth of gold rightly, or there were reasons for this, sale to cause other things. But whatever it was, and again, we have to defend ourselves even to my friend Al O'Grady. So my whole thing is this is actually good because this type of doubt and belief is the classic bull market wall of worry. And that's, for lack of a better word, I've called this the greatest stealth bull market I've ever seen, because I've never seen something rise so long over a long period of time with so few people actually participating in it. So I don't worry about the call or being too bullish. I think the people are to have to answer themselves who've missed most, if not all of it, and who continuously knock it and make fun of those of us who have made it. So no, I'm quite comfortable in my position. I say mark this maybe interview date down, and when gold does cross the infamous 2,000 and it all comes out, just remember that date and be prepared that those same wounded perma bears will come out of their bloodied foxholes and tell us again. And maybe one day they're going to be right, and maybe one day I'm going to join them. But that day isn't even on the horizon yet.
Okay. As a follow-up, I know it was about 6 weeks ago, thereabouts, you offered your $1 million challenge. Any fallout with that? Any follow-up?
No, we increased it to 2. But, look, in one way, instance, I can't stand talking about this person because it is such a farce that this person can carry on and still be used. Look, a good friend sent me a video of the guy on Bloomberg a few days ago when he said gold is really only worth $800. And when it was $800, I completed interviews when he said it was only $400. But at the same time, unfortunately, people like him, he's not the only one, are what people are getting to be heard by the general media when gold does decline. They don't bring on the Bill Murphys or the Jim Sinclairs who've been right time and time and time again, but they rather bring out these cast of characters. And so then what happens to us and even myself is, I think my girl was saying there's 40,000 regular people viewing our blog. Now, a lot of that 40,000, 50 or 100 hear these people and write these emails and all concerned and thinking, that everything has gone haywire because these people who've been wrong for 10 years say they're finally going to be right. And you know what? They may be. A broken clock is right twice a day. It's wrong 23 hours and 58 minutes the rest of the time, but right twice a day. And that's all these people have going for them. So I don't ever expect those types, especially this one party, to ever, because any chance they've been ever given to honestly and openly debate, they don't. Even a great Wall Street trader I know that for 40 years on the street, who doesn't live too far from me, that sends me emails from time to time, sent me an email just before the flash crash going that he knew the flash crash was coming just after it. He says because this guy finally put a hedge in his writing and started to talk as if he was bullish on gold. And to him, that was a signal he knew he was dead when a guy like that says that.
Right.
So, listen, just so people know is, it does bother me that it's not because he's getting press or I'm not. I don't need the press. Believe me, I'm well happy where I'm at. I don't need any of that stuff. What bothers me is that many people are not getting to participate still in a very good bull market where they should be participating because folks like this who are constantly wrong are still being used by people who don't even have the courtesy to say, okay, before you do tell us your latest opinion, kind of tell us what went wrong with your last 22 predictions that it ended, and then give them their airtime. They don't even do that. So that's what irks me. That's what gets my blood up, and that's what every once in a while makes me want to take a fling at this person because just how incredibly injustice it is, and not so much to me, but to men that have been outright spoken and stuck their necks out. I think of Jim Sinclair, even Bill Murphy and Gatter, who just constantly continue to be certainly more right than any of these folks, and yet they're made fun of, and then the media won't even at least include their views in something, and when they do, they call them names. I mean, even Dennis Gottman. I mean, I can't think of anyone who continues to be shown to be on the wrong side of gold trades than Dennis. Now, he's not being nasty and so astute that he doesn't even note his past mistakes, but doesn't he grasp that every time he makes a switch within days, whatever he switched from bullish to bearish goes the opposite way, time in and time again. And yet, if you turn on your TV when there's a downfall in gold, who they bringing out? They're bringing him. So I guess it's just a combination of frustration and also wishing that people who should be heard are not being heard.
Well, we're listening to you, Peter, so you're being heard. We don't want you to get upset. Take a deep breath. Take a step back.
No, it's not upset. Al, I'm glad you gave me a chance to address it because we get emails about it,
Sure.
almost daily. But look, everybody's entitled to be wrong. Look, I can write a book about being wrong. I don't think I've ever made it or try to come across that somehow I'm better than others or haven't faulted and what have you. But, this is in a unique economic time. This is, we're experiencing and are experiencing things that have not been in modern era. And, people are still blindly trusting, and I'm probably more mad at the media than I am at these individuals because the expectation is that the media are a third party and are going to bring objectiveness to their reporting, and they're not. They can't be that stupid. Let's send it this way. Here's the most frustrating thing, I think. And I'm not going to name any one individual, but there are several people who constantly use this person as a source. Now, I can't believe they're that stupid that they don't remember that this party said these things at 600, 800, 1,000, 12, 14, 16. Okay, you're going to still go to them. Be fair and say, listen, before I get your latest opinion, you did note back on such and such that gold was going to decline and it didn't. What went wrong with that view, and why do you now think it's different this time? And if they did that, okay, but they don't even do that. So the parties who aren't aware of how bad this person is take this person as somebody that must be really smart because such and such has them on, when in fact they're not. And that perhaps that's the most frustrating thing of it all. So it's not a matter of anger and all. It's a matter of frustration and stupidity that sometimes just irritates me.
Okay. Peter, let's move on. Let's talk about something similar. We were talking about gold. How about precious and base metals? What's your 2 cents worth on that one right now?
Well, I still favor gold over silver, but I like them both, and there'll be a time silver will lead. The platinum palladium market is really more balanced, but it has seen some strength because people are recognizing China still has so many more cars to buy and so much more need for platinum and palladium for the converters. But I think that's a one prong market, so I don't really participate in it. I think base metals are okay. Copper, trades when it's weak down to 350, and when it's strong, it challenges 4. And most copper producers will love $3.50 to $4 for the next 5 years. And, the zinc market is picking up. But again, I still feel that the number one metal that I want to have exposure to outside of a specialty metal is gold. So gold first, silver second, copper third, and then maybe a few other base metals.
Okay. The U.S. dollar index has been in a very tight trading range for quite some time now. Whether one was bearish like you or bullish like others, would it be fair to say that both sides must feel like they've been kissing their sister?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. It's gone nowhere as fast, so neither bull or bear has much to point to. But I would continue to argue that since it's down from 120 to 70 and only's rallied to 80 and can't do that much more despite this horrific problem that continues in Europe, it's a sign that the dollar is only in a counter-trend rally and the secular bear market remains. So even if it is kissing my sister at the moment, I still believe time and direction is on my side, so I don't sweat out this bear market bounce.
Okay, and U.S. bonds, still avoid them like the plague?
Oh, absolutely. Somebody told me today they bought a 2-year Treasury and it's yielding 0.3%, 0.30%, 1/3 of 1%. And I said to them, listen, why did you buy that? Well, I had to stick my money somewhere. You're right, but just remember this. It's paying 1/3%, and even the government's telling you inflation is almost 3%. So in 2 years, you're going to lose that much purchasing power. I know, but I had to put my money somewhere else, was their answer. I said, okay, fine.
Yeah, but you're better off just sticking it under your mattress then, aren't you?
Well, in both ways, for a 2-year, within 2 years, if you don't do anything else with the money, they did make 0.3% versus nothing under the mattress.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Unless, of course, what you put it in doesn't have, loses its value. I mean, that is what people in Europe faced. Suddenly, their country and its debt instruments, went down a lot in value. That day is going to come to America. I don't know what day it is, and I don't think it's anytime soon, but it's going to come as well. But when you start to hear people buying 10-year bonds yielding 2% and knowing inflation is at least double, if not triple that, then it's the absolute avoid that I continue to believe it is.
Okay. Before we get into some of your thoughts about some companies that you're following, I want to go to a question from a listener. This came into my inbox. This is from AJ. AJ, I don't know where you're from, but thank you very much for the question for Peter, and it goes like this. I know Peter is bullish on uranium stocks, but is it a good time to be investing in the geothermal sector as well?
I don't know enough about it. I know it's an alternative energy. I know there's been some companies that have shown up at shows or even tried to speak to me about it, and I tell them it's not an area of any expertise at all. So I'd have to say only if you believe, as others, that the constant need for alternative energy is going to grow. But I don't know the specifics in that industry, but I will take the time to say that the uranium market obviously had a big hit to it because of the horrific bad incident that took place in Japan a year ago. But I hate to say it, but it so-called weathered the storm well. And I think people are realizing that a year later, and all the original talk of countries going to get rid of it and this and that, the bottom line is uranium's growth is going to grow because people continue to need nuclear energy to meet the needs of the world's energy requirements. So I think the uranium stocks have seen their worst, and if you're watching them trade here, they seem to be many of them under accumulation. So I would focus more on uranium and particular energy source that your person speaks of. Try to find somebody that specializes in that area, and I'm certainly not that person.
Okay, let's talk about areas that you do specialize in. Any individual companies on your radar that you'd like to talk about?
Maybe I'll run down some of the ones that people have asked about. PDAC has just concluded yesterday, and there was, I was on vacation, and this immediately followed. So there's been really no opportunity for me to speak to clients. But I probably would say that, the same old major storylines that still exist. I mean, I think Alderon and all the iron ore plays, I think people are realizing, are moving forward in general. I think Alderon, news of its port access, and soon I think will be some sort of offtake agreement. I just think that company still remains very attractive. I'd say perhaps one company that seems to have gotten over a hurdle and now finally I think can start to maybe be valued in the way it should be, and that's Donna Metals. They concluded their last financing to meet their obligation to become a producer by this time next year, and I think many of the players now who come into it will start to look at it from a cash flow and earnings basis, and it's very inexpensive from that end. Geologic Exploration had great news since we last talked. Not only does their project that they're currently working on look extremely cheap and have still a lot of upside, but now they look like they have a whole lot of more exploration potential. I get a lot of questions, but I can't say anything because there's nothing to say further on Orman Exploration. Management is completely gone in quiet mode. They would not respond to me other than to point to their comment in December, that they were in talks, and the assumption should be that they still are. A company I added to my personal holdings that's been a client for a while that, went under 50 cents to me was just they were giving it away, and that's why I felt I had to buy it. The Spanish Mountain Gold. I mean, during the last time since we last spoke, the company has such good news that it's going right through its pre-feasibility and going right to bankable feasible study. And the stock went down, and that's part of the overall mode that's in this market. And part of the reason people brought that down is because now they think there'll be a lull in news because of that. But the fact is that if they're moving to bankable feasibility study, the project's actually gotten better, and they still have exploration upside potential. So I think at 50 cents a run that stock was, if you believe as I do that they're not blowing up and metal prices remain strong, that's a good play. And then finally, just a company I think we'll see more news in the coming days that just is worth so much more than its current market cap, in my opinion, and that's Sunridge Gold. So I think that's enough to get back on track and look at.
Sure. For those of you the following Peter's companies, at least the ones that Peter has been following, he had mentioned Geologics. If you're listening to this interview on YouTube or iTunes, come on over to my website, corporateinterviews.com. Click on the Interviews tab. I have done a recent interview with the CEO of Geologics, so you can certainly get some more background information about the company that Peter was just describing. Peter, that's it as far as formal questions are concerned. I know you were down south, down in Florida. Is there anything that you'd like to share as far as that experience is concerned with our listeners?
Oh, God. New Jersey should be made into its own country because Florida's nothing like New Jersey. Thank God for them. I mean, it was unbelievable to sit in traffic and not hear people honking horns or getting mad at each other, walk into stores or facilities and people so friendly you think, like, do I know this person? Why are they being so nice to me? Just a different lifestyle. Certainly I found much more enjoyable to the point where I even found myself being ahead of everybody. So I just, it's an amazing, and now I know why New Jersey has a stigma, because when we were waiting to get back on the plane, people were already arguing and pushing and shoving, and I realized we weren't even back in New Jersey yet. So to the area I was in, Sarasota, it was beautiful. I did get to see my first live alligator on a golf course.
No kidding.
And it was over 6 feet tall, and it was not that far away from us. And somebody started to explain, well, listen, if it ever started an alligator run to you got to run in a zigzag pattern, the guy said, because they run pretty good straight, but if you run zigzag, they can't keep up with you. And I looked at us, and I said, listen, there's 4 of us here. All I got to be is the third fastest runner, and I'll be okay. But,
That's right. And as I had mentioned to you before, Jimmy Buffett had a great song, Changes in Latitude, Changes in Attitude.
Yeah, and believe me, he was right.
Yeah, absolutely.
The West really must be a great place.
On that note, Peter, as always, thanks very much for your time, and I look forward to talking with you again next week.
Thank you, Al.
Okay. This interview appears on my website, corporateinterviews.com. It can also be accessed on YouTube and iTunes. Just type in Grandich in those respective search engines to not only access this interview, but interviews that we've done in the past. If you have any questions for Peter, just like AJ had done, by all means, send me an email. My email address, very simple, al@corporateinterviews.com. We will certainly do our best to mention it on our next program, but please keep your question generic in nature and not company specific. For Peter Grandich, I'm Al O'Grady. Thanks very much for joining us.